We do this thing where if you have any questions and you send them to us, we answer the questions. It's really easy to send us questions. Go to our website, davidpakman.com, click on Contact Us, send your question. G-Man sent a question saying, hey, Pakman crew, does anyone on staff enjoy traveling to amusement parks or other attractions like museums or any historical type of attractions? This is really 3 different questions in a way. I am not huge on amusement parks. Like when I was younger, I never went to any kind of roller coasters or any of those types of rides. I went to the amusement parks, but I wouldn't go on those rides. I tried a few of them. I don't really like roller coasters. There's some of the other ones, like for example, there's a Batman ride at the local Six Flags where you're kind of like strapped in and your legs are hanging. I kind of like that one. I think I like that better than the roller coasters because it's much smoother. You don't have I think the bumping is what I don't like on the roller coasters a lot. I'm not huge on amusement parks. Museums, yes, I go to museums. You know, how many museums can you really go to in any given trip? You do reach a limit. But
eventually they end up kind of being repetitive.
And eventually it can get a little repetitive. Historical places, yes, just depends on the place. Like around in New England, we have tons of historical places. But once you've seen a couple of them,
they're terrible.
There's kind of like the same type of thing. Like we know there's a lot of pilgrim stuff and there's a lot of some Civil War type stuff, whatever. So yeah, some of it, it's more when I go to other places that I'm more interested in the local history. But with all of these things, it's like, how much art can you look at in a day? I couldn't spend 6 hours looking in an art museum. Even though you go to Washington, D.C., you've got plenty of free museums to fill up your entire day. How much of it can you really do? So in moderation, yeah, I'm up for that stuff.
I agree with you on that. When it comes to amusement parks, I hate them.
Oh, you don't like them at all anymore?
No.
I thought I remembered you kind of being into the rides, though.
I mean, they're okay, but they just make me sick to my stomach.
Right.
Like if I go on 3 of them, it doesn't matter what they are. I'm nauseous for the rest of the day.
Huh.
And so if I'm not throwing up, I'm trying to avoid stepping in it. The food is overpriced and terrible.
Of course.
There's a bunch of obnoxious little kids running around that you just want to, slap.
You don't like $6 bottled waters?
I don't.
Right.
I don't.
Natan, what about you in amusement parks?
$10
before
dried
Lewis
up hot dogs.
Comments on the other part.
I don't like amusement parks for the exact reasons that Lewis describes.
Okay. And then how about either one of you guys want to comment on the historical sites and or museums?
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I love that stuff in other countries. But like you said, in this country, it's very limited. When you go to D.C., it's great. I mean, at least you have some variation there.
There are museums all over the place.
You've got the aviation, you've got the natural history, and it's nice. But when you go to other countries, you have things that are aimed specifically at their culture or their ancient civilizations. So there's more variation.
But it's not that there aren't tons of museums around. I mean, you can even go 20 minutes down the road from our studio, and there's a bunch of museums, probably with tons of stuff you've never seen. It's more just
no. I've seen them. Occasionally, there are rotating exhibits. And in that case, it's okay.
I think, Natan, what's going on is it's just the American-type museum outside of, the really good big museums Lewis is probably just sick of from living around it for so long.
Yeah, I personally like museums, and I like historical sites, even when we're not talking about museums. Massachusetts and Virginia, by far, have the most colonial, and Civil War stuff. Civil War stuff by far in the South, too. So there's a lot of good stuff to see. There's a lot of crazy, awesome stuff to see that people don't know about, like transportation museums. There's a subway museum in New York City, which is pretty awesome. There's all sorts of stuff. I think with the art thing you were saying, there's something else that's at work, which is that people don't consume a lot of art. When I say art, I mean like paintings and drawings. So what happens is they can think of going to an all-day music festival and they think nothing of it. But when they think about spending the exact amount of time in an art museum, they think it's just going to be boring. But that's because they never do it and they're not really in touch with it as much.
That may be the case, but I think there's something a little different from casually hanging around at a music festival with the music playing and you kind of tune in and you tune out. You're having something to eat, you're talking with people, versus the way I like to consume art, right? And I go to a fair amount of art museums, is really you go through and you look at one exhibit or two exhibits and you're really pretty focused on what's there. It's less casual.
Because you only do it once a year, whereas music you hear every day.
Maybe.
I mean, I think that very few people, artists will have no problem spending 10 hours in an art museum. And I think that's because in contrast to music, art is something that very few people consume regularly.
Could be. Yeah, I probably go to art museums 4 to 5 times a year or something like that.
It's very hard to turn on your computer and look at a full-size, painting from the 14th century.
Right. Very good. All right. Keep the questions coming. You can email us. You can also leave your question as a voicemail. 219-2-DAVID-P. Available 24 hours a day. Call anytime. Leave your questions. We'll answer them.